Soon, he said, in his resonant voice that was like the tolling of a bell, and I felt, all at once, a sharp premonition of dread that lasted only as long as the match flared, and I could see his white, broad face, as if it were hovering, disembodied above the sheets, illuminated from below like a grotesque carnival head. Then the flame died. The cigar glowed and filled the compartment with a remembered fragrance that made me think of my father, how he would hug me in a warm fug of Havana when I was a little girl, before he kissed me and left me and died. As soon as my husband handed me down from the high step of the train, I smelled the amniotic salinity of the ocean. It was November. The trees, stunted by the Atlantic gales, were bare, and the lonely halt was deserted but for his leather-gaitered chauffeur waiting meekly beside the sleek black motor car. It was cold. I drew my furs about me, a wrap of white and black, broad stripes of ermine and sable, with a collar from which my head rose like the calyx of a wildflower. I swear to you, I had never been vain until I met him. The bell clanged, the straining train leapt its leash, and left us at that lonely wayside halt, where only he and I descended. Oh, the wonder of it! How all that might of iron and steam had paused only to suit his convenience. The richest man in France. Madame? The chauffeur eyed me. Was he comparing me, invidiously, to the countess, the artist's model, the opera singer? I hid behind my furs as if they were a system of soft shields. My husband liked me to wear my opal over my kid glove, a showy theatrical trick. But the moment the ironic chauffeur glimpsed its simmering flash, he smiled, as though it was proof positive I was his master's wife. And we drove towards the widening dawn, that now streaked half the sky with a wintry bouquet of pink of roses, or orange of tiger lilies, as if my husband had ordered me a sky from a florist. The day broke around me like a cool dream. Sea, sand, a sky that melts into the sea, a landscape of misty pastels, with a look about it of being continuously on the point of melting. A landscape with all the deliquescent harmonies of Debussy, of the etudes I played for him, the reverie I'd been playing that afternoon in the salon of the princess where I'd first met him, among the teacups and the little cakes, I, the orphan hired out of charity to give them their digestive of music. And his castle, the fairy solitude of the place, with its turrets of misty blue, its courtyard, its spiked gate, his castle that lay on the very bosom of the sea, with seabirds mewing about its attics, the casements opening onto the green and purple, evanescent departures of the ocean, cut off by the tide from land for half a day. That castle, at home neither on the land nor on the water, a mysterious amphibious place, contravening the materiality of both earth and the waves, with the melancholy of a mermaiden who perches on her rock and waits endlessly for a lover who had drowned far away long ago. That lovely, sad sea siren of the place. The tide was low at this hour, so early in the morning. The causeway rose up out of the sea. As the car turned on to the wet cobbles between the slow margins of water, he reached out for my hand that had his sultry, witchy ring on it, pressed my fingers, kissed my palm with extraordinary tenderness. His face was as still as ever I'd seen it, still as the pond ice thickly over, yet his lips, that always looked so strangely red and naked between the black fringes of his beard, now curved a little. He smiled. He welcomed his bride home. No room, no corridor that did not rustle with the sound of the sea, and all the ceilings, the walls on which his ancestors in the stern regalia of rank lined up with their dark eyes and white faces, were stippled with refracted light from the waves which were always in motion. That luminous, murmurous castle of which I was the chatelaine, I, the little music student whose mother had sold all her jewelry, even her wedding ring, to pay the fees at the conservatoire. First of all, there was the small ordeal of my initial interview with the housekeeper, who kept this extraordinary machine, this anchored, castellated ocean liner, in smooth running order no matter who stood on the bridge, how tenuous, I thought, might be my authority here. She had a bland, pale, impassive, dislikable face beneath the impeccably starched white linen headdress of the region. Her greeting, correct but lifeless, chilled me. Daydreaming, I dared presume too much on my status, briefly wondered how I might install my old nurse, so much loved, however cosily incompetent, in her place. Ill-considered schemings. He told me this one had been his foster mother, was bound to his family in the utmost feudal complicity. As much part of the house as I am, my dear. Now her thin lips offered me a proud little smile. She would be my ally as long as I was his, and with that I must be content. But here it would be easy to be content. In the turret suite he had given me for my very own, I could gaze out over the tumultuous Atlantic and imagine myself the queen of the sea. There was a Bechstein for me in the music room, and on the wall another wedding present, an early Flemish primitive of Saint Cecilia at her celestial organ. In the prim charm of this saint, with her plump sallow cheeks and crinkled brown hair, I saw myself as I could have wished to be. I warmed to a loving sensitivity I had not hitherto suspected in him. Then he led me up a delicate spiral staircase to my bedroom before she discreetly vanished. The housekeeper set him chuckling with some, I dare say, lewd blessing for newlyweds in her native Breton, that I did not understand, that he, smiling, refused to interpret. And there lay the grand hereditary matrimonial bed, itself the size almost of my little room at home, with the gargoyles carved on its surfaces of ebony, vermilion lacquer, gold leaf, and its white gauze curtains billowing in the sea breeze. Our bed, and surrounded by so many mirrors, mirrors on all the walls in stately frames of contorted gold that reflected more like white lilies than I'd ever seen in my life before. He'd filled the room with them to greet the bride, the young bride. The young bride who had become that multitude of girls I saw in the mirrors, identical in their chic navy blue tailor-mades, for travelling, madame, or walking. A maid had dealt with the furs. Henceforth, a maid would deal with everything. See, he said, gesturing towards those elegant girls, I have acquired a whole harem for myself. I found that I was trembling. My breath came thickly. I could not meet his eye and turned my head away out of pride, out of shyness, and watched a dozen husbands approach me in a dozen mirrors and slowly, methodically, teasingly unfasten the buttons of my jacket and slip it from my shoulders. Enough. No, more. Off comes the skirt, and next the blouse of apricot linen that cost more than the dress I had for First Communion.